Today we'll be showing you the Carnifex battleship. It's one of the most recent ships that I built. Actually is the most recent. That's up on the workshop right now. And basically I already put out the trailer version of the ship. If you want to view that, it's on the same channel. This is just going to be a walkthrough video. We're going to show you basically the interior of it, which you don't really get to see in the trailer, as well as just some of the features and kind of why I put it in the ship. I will go ahead and say ahead of time, if you are looking for combat in this video, you're not going to get it. That is because it is a complete lag fest to watch. I'm not going to put my computer through that again. It's not very fun. But anyways, especially trying to film during that. But as for now, we'll get on with it. So we have the Carnifex battleship, as I've already stated. As you can see, it is about, I believe it was a little bit over 300 meters long, which puts it right on scale with the rest of my battleships, almost to dreadnought range when it's about 100 meters below. Anyways, 20 million kilograms, which is also in battleship range for my own ships, but on the low end. Was pretty much the heaviest thing that I could put into an atmosphere and still have it somewhat feasible. It's still rather ridiculous in the end, though. So, as you can see, there are quite a few of these upward thrusters. Definitely takes priority here, crammed in with pretty much everywhere that I could find a spot to do so. Had to even add a few of the little extensions on the sides and other stuff like that, like right here, in order to pull that off. But anyways, one of the other features like this, the ship was actually designed, as you can see in the trailer video, it was designed to fight the Artemis carrier that Surge recently put out, since both our factions are in a war, so to speak. With the whole Phoenix lore and all that, we of course keep going at it basically with the ships that we build and all that, but this was meant to take it on. So the difference between the two of them basically is, of course, obviously that one's a carrier, this one's a battleship. The other one, though, is that one, while it does have a lot more lift, is more of a maneuverable ship, easier to get around and handle heavier atmospheres and all that. This one has more armored engines, so it's harder to kill. The engines aren't perhaps, as prevalent as they are in the carrier, but they would be harder to take out. So that was definitely the idea behind the placement here, with them being sunken in and heavy armor pretty much everywhere. So that's definitely where all the armor takes priority, is covering up engines and reactors. So that is the outside. We have also, of course, the front door. Then there is the main broadside. It's meant to be a broadsider, so there's not much armament on the front, but you're going to get the main focus of the firepower coming straight out either side. Of course, it could also do well if it were flying directly over the target, but obviously that's making your ship very vulnerable at the same time, because then they're going to be able to shoot up into your engines. So the best way and the thickest armor is going to be present on the side, where they have to shoot not only through several layers of armor to get into the central area, but also just the natural thickness of the wing here. And not only that, but of course there is the rockets here to add into the broadside. There is the main rockets. These are the fixed rocket launchers. There are 6 of them on both sides, and they will fire straight out, obviously. And then there are the turrets, where there are 4 turrets for both sides, and each turret has 2 rocket launchers on them. All the turrets are controlled simultaneously. I'll kind of demonstrate that in a little while and explain a little bit why I did it that way. But anyways, as for now, we'll go on inside. So we'll get to this. I do apologize for the lag in this video. I seem to be in the habit of making ships that are too large for my computer to enjoy. But we have the airlock with the little blinky light thing again. So as we come inside, you have the main hallway straight away. And one thing about this big ship that sets it apart from the others already is the fact that you have signs. So you can actually figure out why certain areas exist and what they're meant to be. Because I do seem to get many video reviews where people go through ships and they say something is completely different than what it's supposed to be, which is always interesting. But now you know. Anyways, med bay, pretty simple. And going on, not much to say about that one. And then you go in the other side and there is the officers' quarters. There would be 3 officers for the ship. One would be, of course, your captain. The other one would be the executive officer, and then the third one being a gunnery commander. And they would have control over their respective parts of the crew and whatnot. You can go into all the lore of basically how the ship crews are structured in Phoenix in the guide that I've written. I link that on all the workshop files now. So just follow that link and you can read about it. And in the front part, as you saw the sign earlier, this is the flight bridge. So basically by flight bridge we are talking about a bridge that you would use while flying, but obviously because of the windows you do not want to use it in combat. But because flying in the windows is helpful, etc. And anyways, basic standard readout with the standard time of Titan, the date, so you can figure out exactly when I'm filming this right now. And then of course just seats for it. Yeah, not much to say there. Anyways, moving on, and we go back into the entrance hall and heading on upstairs. Once you get up here, there's going to be the crew quarters. They're the same thing on both sides. Each crew quarters holds 10 of the crew. There would be a total of 20 crew, then the 3 officers who stay below. And so they have their bunks all through here. And yep. Then going on up, there is the... Going back further. This little section just exists purely so that we don't have an oxygen link with all the engines. And now we are in the main hallway for the front section. So, walking on down, I was very satisfied with the look of this hallway. I feel like with the lights above it gave a very nice Mass Effect feel, which is something that I always kind of subconsciously go for. And the blue is nice. So, going on over, again, just dark hallways that keep you from having oxygen links because atmospheric engines are a nightmare to seal. And as we go on, now we are in the central engineering hallway. Didn't really come up with a better name for it. Basically, what you're looking at right here, you can see a little bit below, there is the cargo. There are 8 large cargo containers, so that is one of them there. And then they are surrounded by small cargo containers to hold all the ammunition and whatnot. Inside these heavy armor block cubes that you can see us passing by are the reactors. And there are 4 reactors. This hallway is host to 3 of them. I'll show you the 4th one in just a little bit. And so the reactors don't actually have any access panels because I didn't want to add any structural weakness. You could say, of course, that I could have added a door right here and you could get inside and repair the reactor, but the thing is that it does wind up weakening the side armor, so a shot comes through, breaches the hallway, and then it goes straight into your door and destroys your reactor, which is not a good thing because then the ship will come crashing down and your enemy will celebrate and you will not. So, we don't like that. Anyways, so you can see here in the middle, there is again the cargo container. Moving on, and you just have a readout of the power usage right now. and the reactors and making sure that they're on. And so we go into the final part of the central hallway. And so the other two cargo containers, and your final reactor would actually be inside this wall here. Of course, just like the others, you cannot actually see it. All the gyroscopes are laid out up above the reactors. Well, they're not actually above the reactor sections, they're isolated, but up above the cargo sections anyway. And so they are laid out like so. You also have several gyroscopes that are laid out facing forward here. That is part of the gravitational alignment system, so they have to face that way in order to pull it off. Basically what that does, and we can kind of demonstrate later, is that if the ship is pitching too much, it will automatically level the ship, and the remote control here is part of that process. And because the script needs a remote control to sense where it's facing. Anyways, moving on into the rear section, we have another little sign telling us what is ahead. And what you can see as you're coming along this hallway is the gunnery stations. This one would be the starboard gunnery, and then on the other side would be the port gunnery. Same thing, just facing a different way. When you go in here, there will be the CIC, which is otherwise known as the battle bridge. So just like with the flight bridge, where you have it up at the front with windows and everything, here you are sitting inside an armored shell, inside of an armored shell, so it's nice and very well protected, so that you could control the ship from this area during a battle. And that way, you can stay alive even while being brutally shot at from the outside. So anyways, this will be some of the controls here. What you see right in front of you is just a readout for the gravitational alignment. It's giving you, of course, the gravity here. The stabilizers are currently disabled, and then just telling you the rolling. So just a demonstration of how this works. I'm pressing Q right now, and you can see that we're rolling. So it's telling us that we have 5 degrees, and now I can press E to roll back a little bit. So it's really helpful, especially since you can't actually see outside, just as an idea as to what's going on. Same thing with the pitch. I'm moving my mouse up right now, and you can see our pitch go up, and now I'm moving my mouse down, and the pitch turns negative. So anyways, let's pull up the rest of the display, and there is a forward camera in slot 7, so you can see the camera. This way you can fly if you don't have the third-person view enabled, and once again you can see us pitching and stuff, and so that readout goes back to here, and you can see all that good stuff. Now I will go ahead and pitch up. It doesn't really activate until you're about above 5 degrees or so. Now I'm going to activate the gravitational alignment, and you can see safety override is active, and it is automatically leveling us. Now it doesn't actually take us to 0 for the roll and the pitch. That is so that you have room to maneuver the ship while the stabilizer is active, but it does bring us within that 5-degree range so that we aren't pitching the ship too violently. And of course, you can turn that on and off with 1, which just toggles it on and off. I've turned it back off here, so if you don't like that feature, then obviously you don't have to use it. Going along the little tab here, pull that up so you can see the mouse, hopefully. Here we have the weapons, just missile turrets, Gatling turrets. This is the ventral connector piston. Let's see if I can get the third person here. So, ventral connectors are located where you see the white lines underneath the middle section. I'll go ahead and extend both the pistons now, and you can start to see those connectors come out. Now the way that I'm designing a lot of the star bases and so on that I build on planets is basically just to have towers that can feed up to ships like this, so it makes very simple to have these on the bottom so that they can fly over the towers and the towers can give them what they need, because docking or landing ships is somewhat unfeasible in many locations, especially due to the lack of level terrain on a lot of planets. And so you want to be able to keep giving them uranium easily, so that they don't fall down. Anyways, number 6 here on the toolbar is your reverse cluster, and so you can see those kind of go on and off there in the back. Now, of course, you can just turn the reverse on and off. That way you can keep cruising and not have to turn your dampeners off and therefore crash your ship. And that way you don't have to also keep pressing down W the whole time in order to go forward. Now, in tab 2 and tab 3 are completely identical, just they're controlling different parts of the ship. You have tab 2 for the port side, tab 3 for the starboard side. And anyways, we'll go ahead and do the port side since that's more lit by the sun here. And so you have 1, which is going to rotate your turrets left, 2 will stop the rotation, and then 3 will rotate them to the right. They have a maximum on either side for 35 degrees. That's so that they can keep firing and not wind up blowing each other up, which is obviously a good thing. And then number 4 works with the weapon sequencing script, which, just like the gravitational script, is also by Whiplash, which I have linked on the workshop file if you would like to get it. And anyways, number 4 activates that, and you can see the sequence rockets firing out here. So this way you don't just get pulses of rockets, but the sequence allows it to keep having explosions, where it actually makes it, due to the crazy physics of space engineers, more effective ultimately, due to having a pulse rather than, or a sequence rather than a pulse. And so you can turn 4 to do that off again, and you can actually control these individually, which is nice. See, now I'm doing starboard, and now I'm doing port, and being able to control individually rather than most of the time with the weapons where you have to, you know, select the weapon and then fires everything, which you don't want. And so number 5 is just going to fire your fixed rockets on the respective side. Let's do the port instead. Port 1. Now, these actually do come out in pulse fire rather than the sequence. And then you say, oh no, I thought you just said that, that it was terrible, and why would you do that? Well, there's actually a reason. And so, anyways, the point in not sequencing the main broadside ones is so that you don't have tons of lag while you play. In order to have the sequence, I'm actually running 2 separate programs. One's for the port side turrets, the other one's for the starboard side turrets. And basically, if you want the other 2 rocket groups, then you also have to do separate programs for those as well. So ultimately, that would be running 4 programs, which are quite laggy. Ultimately, so in order to cut down the lag, we have cut down on the programs. You can throw in the programs if you really want to. Be my guest. But anyways, that is why. Now 6 is going to be your targeting camera. It's just going to show you your respective side. So this is the starboard side. That one is the port side. So that way you can use this camera to aim exactly where you want those rockets to be hitting. And now, that is all of the controls, so we'll go back to touring the ship, and so, no, don't want the jetpack. Anyways, and you have just nice view here of the interior, and going through. Now for the armor here, in the center part at least, we have ribs of heavy armor on the top. There's actual layers on the sides. So again, the side armor is the heaviest, but the ribs is basically just to allow you to have good defense, break up enemy fire and all that. while at the same time being lighter than a full coat layer, so that this thing can actually keep flying. So again, the starboard, no, that's port gunnery on that side, and here behind the CIC we have the cryo room. Pretty simple, you just have the cryo chambers, and then this just gives you a status update over here with the oxygen chambers and the cryo chambers and all that. And going back out, and we'll take a turn this way. And so we will go back into the engineering area. This is the primary engineering. Of course, it doesn't really matter. But anyways, we have the consoles here. You can see some of the upward thrusters that we have. And then back here you have what is called the life support area. It's honestly not the largest concentration of the oxygen tanks on the ship. But anyways, this is a nice room just to show you some of the life support stuff. These are all the programs controlling your fire sequencing, LCD, etc. And then just a nice little readout of the time and date and the tanks. And so moving on, in here, this is actually our unpressurized maintenance area. So we have an interior airlock in a sense. And because this has access to a lot of the atmospheric thrusters, and as I kind of referenced earlier, trying to seal these up is a nightmare, and so I did not even attempt to do so. It is completely open to whatever air is outside, and you might be able to get a little peek. Anyways, I don't know, you can see the holes down there, but you can't really see the ground through. Anyways, we have a nice little catwalk down to the ladder. This is basically just an area that is designed to allow you to control or repair all the engines and stuff should that become necessary. And then back into this area, same sort of concept. You can see more of the upward thrusters. Behind this wall would be the rear main thrusters of the ship, and then going along you have just of course this is all heavy armor walls on our right to protect the engines on the inside. So nice full heavy armor layer. You can actually see another heavy armor layer right below us is what we're walking on. So if any of these engines get breached, they're going to hit the heavy armor layer. Then they're going to hit another heavy armor layer before they're going to go through and start hitting the main upward engines. This is also right between the heavy armor layers. You can start to see all our oxygen tanks. So this area is actually the primary area for the oxygen systems, and there's actually 96 oxygen tanks throughout the ship. So up here you can see windows that's up into the gunnery sections, and then just nice little catwalks on through here, and more of the upward engines, etc. So that is basically the inside of the ship. Not sure if there's much else to say here. Like I say, it is a very slow, bulky ship. Don't be expecting to pull any crazy maneuvers or anything. Like the other atmospheric ships I made, since of course the largest thrust is here below, you definitely want to pull the nose up when you're trying to stop, and it also can help if you push the nose down when you're trying to get forward, so you can get a boost from those upward engines, because the rear engines which propel you forward, there's only 7 of them. There's 2 up in the nose, and then 4 here, and then 1 right there, and then a few of the smaller ones. So it really doesn't give you much thrust, so I would highly recommend kind of flying this like a helicopter rather than just going forward, if you want to get it to go fast quickly, because the main focus again is all on keeping it up. Anyways, so that is our Carnifex battleship. One gigantic paperweight, and has a ton of weapons, meant to basically be a end-all sort of ship in a way. if you've ever seen the Kestrel ship that I built, it's basically the same philosophy, just in an atmosphere. The Kestrel, just like this one, not entirely the most practical ship. You're going to get a lot better results from frigates, destroyers, etc. But these kinds of ships are great for deterring enemies, parking over key objectives or things that you want to keep and defend, and just letting them sit there to take up all the enemy fire, just like, you know, any tank should do. And so they can sit over the objectives, fend off enemies, and while the enemies are too busy trying to blow these things up, they will be destroyed by the rest of the fleet or other things of that sort. So just like all the other ships, meant to play in a part of a larger fleet, not meant to be the answer to everything. But it's a big propaganda style thing. Just to have one of these around is obviously going to be a nice psychological deterrent, even if not always the most effective. But of course, its effectiveness is all in how you use it, deploy, and what kind of ships you put with it. So if you ever plan to actually be doing any battles, which you probably won't thanks to the craziness of Space Engineers lag in multiplayer, but anyways, if you did, that's an idea of how to use it. So anyways, that is all for this video. If you enjoyed it, subscribe if you'd like to see more. Of course, let me know what you think down in the comments, etc. As to what kind of videos you want to see. One thing I'm kind of wondering is if people enjoy these walkthroughs more, or if they just like seeing the simple trailers, or both. I can always do both for a lot of things. So anyways, just let me know and enjoy.